I see you, I appreciate you, and I'm thankful you subscribe and keep showing up. This space is built on your insights. Leave your thoughts and lessons below. Now, cue the tension, cue the truth, let's get into it. When someone tells you, you need to apologize to my ex, pay attention to what they are really asking. An apology can be a repair tool, but it can also be a leash. The red flag is not the ex's existence. It is a demand that you accept someone else's version of reality, especially when it comes with punishment. In this story, I missed a moment where the argument stopped being about respect and became about control. If you ever find yourself bargaining for basic dignity in your own home, that is a decision point. You either redraw the boundary or you slowly start living on the other side of it. The night my wife told me I was sleeping on the couch, she did not yell. She said it like she was reading a policy from work, calm, final, and strangely rehearsed. We lived on the west side of Milwaukee in a duplex with creaky hardwood, a porch that groaned in winter, and a radiator that hissed like it was offended by the cold. I had just come home from my counseling job at a technical high school, my coat still smelling like wet wool and hallway disinfectant. If someone ever told you, apologize to my ex or you're sleeping on the couch, what would you do? Would you apologize to keep the peace or hold your ground even if it costs you? Drop your answer in the comments right now, because what happens next gets tense fast. And if you want more relationship drama stories with real consequences, hit like, share this with a friend, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Nia was standing in the kitchen in her scrubs, hair wrapped, shoulders stiff. She had lined the spice jars in perfect rows again. That was her stress habit. Organize what she could control. I leaned down to kiss her cheek, and she angled away like my breath was something sharp. You're sleeping on the couch, she said. I blinked, thinking she meant a nap, a joke, a mood. Then she added, until you apologize to Malcolm. Malcolm, her ex-husband. The name landed like a drop plate. I stared at her, waiting for the rest of the sentence to explain why his name was in my kitchen. Apologize for what? I asked. My voice came out smaller than I meant. Nia opened the refrigerator, pulled out a bottle of water, and twisted the cap like she was trying to wring the plastic's neck. For embarrassing him, she said. For making him feel disrespected. For talking to him like he is nothing. My mind flipped through the last time I had been around Malcolm, a charity winter coat drive, in early December at his boxing gym on North Avenue. Nia insisted we go. I had stood near the folding tables, sorting kids' gloves by size, while Malcolm strutted around like the place was a stage. He kept calling Nia baby under his breath, like he forgot I existed. I finally said, quietly, watch how you talk to my wife. That was it. No shouting. No scene. That's what this is. I said. I asked him to show respect. Nia set the water down with controlled thud. You humiliated him in his own space, she replied. Everyone saw. I pictured the gym scuffed mats, the smell of liniment, the teenagers bouncing on their toes. I remember a couple of men looking over, not shocked, just curious, like they were taking notes. Nia's eyes were glossy, but her face stayed firm. I took a breath and tried to choose my words like I was at work, mediating two students who hated each other. Nia, I said, you are my wife. I do not owe your ex an apology for asking him to stop calling you names that belong in a marriage. If anyone should apologize, he should. She laughed once, no humor in it. You always think you are the reasonable one, she said. You are not sleeping in our bed until you fix it. The couch was a long gray sectional we bought the year we finally had grown-up money. It looked comfortable and felt like punishment after 2 hours. That first night, I lay there staring at the ceiling fan's shadow, listening to the radiator hiss and the upstairs neighbor's footsteps. Nia closed the bedroom door like she was sealing a decision in an envelope. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself she was stressed from the hospital. I told myself I could outwait a bad mood. In the morning, she moved like I was furniture. No good morning. No eye contact. She poured coffee into her travel mug and left the pot empty. Her silence felt deliberate, like she was training me. I made my own coffee and ate toast standing at the counter, watching her wipe crumbs that did not exist. Before she walked out, She finally spoke. "I want it done today," she said. "Call him. Apologize. And stop acting like you are above it." Decision number one showed up right there, plain as a stop sign. Apologize to a man I did not respect to keep peace, or refuse and accept whatever came next. I chose refusal, partly out of pride, partly out of principle, and partly because something about her insistence made my skin crawl. "I'm not doing that," I said. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. Nia's jaw tightened. "Then you can get comfortable out there," she replied, and the door clicked behind her. I rode the bus to work that day. Because my car was in the shop, another small stress I had shoved down. The bus windows were fogged, and the driver's radio crackled with a weather warning. Lake effect snow was coming. I watched people clutch their bags, avoid each other's eyes, move through winter like it was a chore. At school, I talked a freshman out of fighting his cousin over a girl. All day I coached kids on pride and consequences, while my own home felt like a test I did not understand. After work, I stopped at my barber, Mr. Dorsey, who cut hair in a narrow shop that smelled like clipper oil and peppermint. The TV was on low, some daytime court show. I sat in the chair and stared at my reflection, while Mr. Dorsey lined up my edges. "You look tired," he said. I almost told him everything, then swallowed it. "There is a particular embarrassment in admitting your marriage is being run like a courtroom you did not agree to enter. That night Nia cooked salmon and did not offer me any. She ate in the bedroom. I heard her laughing on the phone, a soft laugh she had not given me in weeks. The couch dug into my lower back, and I found myself thinking about the first year we were married, when she used to fall asleep with her hand on my chest like she needed proof I was still there. Now she was in the other room, and I was being asked to apologize to a man who used to hold that hand. 2 days passed, then 3. The snow came heavy, the kind that turned streetlights into blurry halos. Nia stayed late at work. I made myself pasta and listened to old jazz records while fixing a vintage weather radio at my desk. That was my hobby, restoring old radios with worn knobs and stubborn static, because I liked the feeling of turning chaos into something clear. The irony was not lost on me. I could fix a 30-year-old radio, but not the silence in my house. On the 4th day, Nia finally confronted me again, this time with her phone in her hand like evidence. "He said you still haven't called," she said. My stomach tightened. "You told him?" I asked. She rolled her eyes. "Of course I told him," she replied. "He deserves to know you're refusing." That word, deserves, hit me wrong. Malcolm deserved what exactly? An apology? A report? Access to my marriage? Nia leaned closer. "He is waiting," she said. "Stop dragging this out. Why are you acting like Malcolm is your supervisor?" I asked before I could stop myself. Nia's eyes flashed. "Do not talk about him like that," she snapped. The way she defended his dignity with more heat than she had defended mine in months made my throat go dry. She stepped back and folded her arms. "You don't understand what he has done for me," she said. "You don't understand what I owe him." I heard myself answer. "I thought I was what you owed." That night, she invited her sister Patrice over without warning. Patrice arrived in a puffer coat, stomping snow off her boots, bringing the sharp energy of someone who came to take sides. They sat at the kitchen table while I stood by the sink, feeling like a student called into the principal's office. Patrice said, "Nia told me you disrespected Malcolm." I opened my mouth, then closed it. I could already see the story had been packaged and delivered. I explained what happened at the gym. I kept my voice measured. Patrice listened with a look that said she had already decided which version felt familiar. "You could have handled it differently," she said. Nia nodded like she was in a meeting. I said, "Handle what differently?" I asked him not to call my wife baby. Patrice shrugged. "Men have egos," she replied. "Sometimes you smooth things over." I stared at her. "So my ego should flatten," I said, "so he can stand taller?" Nia tapped the table with her nails, impatient. "I am not debating this," she said. "Apologize, or sleep out there." Patrice added, "Marriage is about compromise." I almost laughed. Compromise is splitting chores. Compromise is picking which in-laws to see on Thanksgiving. This was me being told to kneel for a man outside my marriage to earn entry back into it. I said, "No, again." Nia's face hardened like cooling metal. Patrice left with a disappointed sigh, like I had failed a simple test. On Sunday, Nia went to church without me. We used to go together, sit near the back, whisper comments about the choir's shoes. That morning she did not ask. I watched her leave from the window as snow swirled around her car. I felt something shift, loneliness turning into a sharper emotion I did not want to name. I made myself eggs, then went down to the corner store for milk. The cashier, an older black man with kind eyes, said, "Cold out there." I nodded, grateful for ordinary words. That evening, Nia returned with a faint smell of incense and perfume, and a calm that felt suspicious. She set her purse down and said, "Malcolm is willing to accept your apology if you do it in person." I stared at her. "In person?" She nodded. "At the gym," she said. "Tomorrow evening." The request felt like a trap dressed as a solution. Decision number 2 arrived. Refuse and escalate the war, or go and see what she was really staging. I said, "Fine, I'll go." I told myself I was going for clarity, not surrender. I told myself that if I looked Malcolm in the eyes, maybe the ridiculousness of this would collapse under its own weight. Monday came with gray skies and dirty snowbanks. At school, a student asked me why adults stay in relationships that make them miserable. I gave him a careful answer about commitment and communication, then felt my chest tighten, because my own life was sitting in my throat like a stone. That evening, Nia drove us to the gym in stiff silence. The windshield wipers pushed slush aside in tired arcs. When we pulled up, the gym sign buzzed slightly, one letter flickering like it was undecided. Inside, the air was warm and smelled like sweat and eucalyptus rub. Malcolm stood near the ring, talking to 2 young fighters. He turned when he saw us, and his smile was all teeth. "Well," he said, "look who came to be a man." My hands curled inside my coat pockets. Nia stood slightly behind him, not beside me. That tiny body placement told me more than any argument. Malcolm walked closer, stopping just inside my personal space like he wanted to see if I would flinch. "You got something to say?" he asked. His voice was smooth, almost gentle, which made it worse. I looked at Nia. She gave me a small nod, encouragement or command. I could not tell which. "I'm here because my wife asked me to come," I said. Malcolm chuckled. "No," he replied. "You're here because you realize you can't talk to me in any kind of way." He turned to Nia. "See? I told you he'd fold." The word fold made my face burn. I kept my voice even. "I'm not apologizing for asking you to respect my marriage," I said. "If you felt embarrassed, that's because you cross a line." Malcolm's smile dropped. The gym seemed to go quieter, even the jump ropes sounding softer. "You don't get to tell me about lines," he said. "You married into something you don't understand." Then he looked at Nia and said, "Tell him." Nia's eyes shifted away. "Tell him what?" I asked. My pulse thudded in my ears. Malcolm's gaze was steady. "Tell him who paid your nursing program deposit when you were broke," he said. "Tell him who kept your lights on." Nia swallowed. "Malcolm helped me before," she said quietly. "When we were younger." The way she said it made it sound like a debt that never stopped accruing. Malcolm leaned back, satisfied. "So when you talk to me, you talk with gratitude," he said. Something in my chest tightened and then went strangely calm. "Gratitude is not the same as obedience." I said, "Helping you once does not give you ownership now." Malcolm's eyes narrowed. "Are you sure about that?" he asked. When we got back in the car, Nia's hands shook on the steering wheel. "Why did you embarrass me again?" she demanded. "Because you put me on display," I replied. "You brought me there like a dog to perform." Her eyes widened, offended. "Do not talk to me like that," she said. I stared out at the streetlights, the snow glowing under them. "Then don't treat me like that," I answered. She drove the rest of the way without speaking. At home, She went straight to the bedroom and slammed the door. I sat on the couch and felt my body buzzing, not with anger, but with dawning recognition. This was not about one moment. This was a structure Nia had built in her mind where Malcolm was still central. I thought about the time she answered his calls quickly, the way she got quiet when his name came up, the way she insisted he was family. I had accepted it because I did not want to look insecure. Now I feel foolish. Over the next week, Nia became colder. She stopped pretending this was about respect and started acting like she was punishing me for noncompliance. She removed my toothbrush from the bathroom cup and set it on the sink like it was contaminated. She cooked meals I could smell but never taste. She changed the streaming passwords by accident. Small acts, each one designed to remind me I was a guest in my own home. I began sleeping with my phone under my pillow, not from fear, but from exhaustion. One afternoon, I found an envelope on the counter with my name on it, written in Nia's neat handwriting. Inside was a printed list. Steps to repair. Step 1. Apologize to Malcolm in person. Step 2. Commit to transparency. Step 3. Earn trust. I stared at the paper like it was a satire someone slipped into my life. Transparency, from a woman who was hiding something behind her eyes. My chest ached. I folded the paper and put it in my desk drawer, where I keep student attendance notes and old radio parts. That Friday, I left work early and went to a fish-fried diner on Miller Parkway, the kind with orange booze and a bell that jingled when the door opened. I ordered cod and fries I barely ate. I sat with my back to the wall, watching families laugh and pass ketchup. Across the room, a couple argued quietly, the woman's hands moving fast. I realized I had started living like that. Calm on the surface, storm underneath. I pulled out my phone and searched for marriage counselor Milwaukee evening appointments. I booked a session for the following Tuesday without telling Nia. Part of me hoped a professional could name what I could not. Part of me knew she would refuse. When I told her on Monday, she laughed. I don't need counseling, she said. You need to apologize. I said, if you want this marriage, you will come. She stared at me like I had spoken in another language. You don't get to give me ultimatums, she replied. I answered, then stopped giving them to me. Tuesday came and she did not show. I sat alone in a small office with a plant that looked tired and a box of tissues no one wanted to touch. The counselor, Dr. Harper, listened as I explained the couch, the apology, the gym, the list. When I finished, she asked one question that made my throat tighten. Where do you feel safe in your relationship? I opened my mouth and nothing came out. Dr. Harper nodded slowly, like my silence was an answer she had heard too many times. The next day, Malcolm texted me. I had never given him my number. The message read, "You still owe me." My stomach sank. I showed Nia. She did not look surprised. He is angry, she said, like that justified everything. Why does he have my number? I asked. Nia's eyes flicked away. He asked, she replied. I gave it to him. The casualness of it made my skin go cold. You handed him access to me, I said. Nia shrugged. If you would just do the right thing. The right thing for who? I snapped, louder than I meant. Nia's face went still. Watch your tone, she said. That phrase, watch your tone, felt like a manager correcting an employee. I realized we were not speaking as partners. We were speaking as opponents and authority. That night, I slept on the couch again, but I did not feel like I was waiting for permission anymore. I felt like I was gathering information, the way I tell students to gather facts before they make a life-changing decision. I started paying attention to small patterns. Nia's phone is always face down now. She took calls in the laundry room with the door shut. She started wearing perfume to run errands. She began going to late meetings. On nights, her unit usually had fewer staff. When I asked gentle questions, she accused me of controlling her. The accusation made me flinch, because I had spent months avoiding any behavior that could be labeled that way. Meanwhile, she had been controlling my bed like a reward. One Thursday, I came home and found a new framed photo on the mantel. Nia and her niece at the lake last summer. It would have been ordinary if not for what was missing. Our wedding photo had been moved to a shelf behind a plant. I asked her about it. She did not look up from chopping onions. I wanted to change things up, she said. The knife hit the cutting board with rhythmic thuds. I watched her hands and realized I did not recognize the woman who used to sing off-key while she cooked. That weekend, Patrice hosted a family dinner. Nia insisted we go. I wore my nicest sweater and practiced calm in the mirror. At Patrice's house, the air smelled like collard greens and lemon cleaner. The relatives greeted me politely, but there was a layer of something else. Curiosity, caution. Malcolm was there too, sitting too comfortably on Patrice's couch, laughing like he belonged. My mouth went dry. Nia did not warn me. She walked in and hugged him like it was normal. Patrice clinked a glass and said grace. As we ate, Malcolm made little comments. Some men don't know how to keep a woman, he said, smiling. Some men don't know when they're being tested. I stared at my plate. Decision number 3 approached. Swallow to avoid a scene, or respond and become the villain in their story. I chose the quieter route. I said nothing, but inside, something hardened, not anger but clarity. I did not want to fight for a seat at a table that did not respect me. After dinner, Nia pulled me into the hallway near Patrice's coat rack. You could have just apologized, she whispered. I looked at her, truly looked. You set me up, I said. You brought your ex around your family to pressure me. Her eyes narrowed. He is still important, she said. He will always be important. I felt my chest tighten. And what am I asked. Nia's lips pressed into a line. She did not answer. That non-answer was louder than Malcolm's jokes. On Monday morning, I found a receipt in the pocket of a jacket Nia asked me to hang up. It was from a hotel near the airport, dated the previous Thursday, the night of her late meeting. My hands shook as I stared at the paper. It could have been anything, I told myself. A co-worker, a friend, hospital training. But my stomach knew better. I set the receipt on the counter and waited. When Nia walked in, she froze. What is this? I asked quietly. Nia's eyes flicked the receipt and then away. Why are you digging through my pockets? She demanded. I was hanging your jacket, I said. My voice was calm, but my heart was pounding. Answer the question. Nia grabbed the receipt, crumpled it, and tossed it in the trash like it was nothing. You are paranoid, she said. This is why you need to apologize. You have been acting unstable since the gym. I stared at her, stunned by the reversal. So now I'm unstable, I said, and I hated how tired my voice sounded. Nia stepped closer, eyes sharp. Yes, she said. You're jealous. You're insecure. You can't handle that Malcolm, and I have history. I felt a strange calm spread through me, like my body had decided panic was a waste of energy. History is not the problem, I said. Secrecy is. Punishment is. You are using him to control me. Nia scoffed. You always want to be the victim, she replied. That night, I did something I never thought I would do in my own marriage. I set up a small indoor camera in the living room, angled toward the front door. I did not put it in the bedroom. I did not want to become someone I despised. But I needed a record of what was happening in my home. I told myself it was for safety, for truth. I also started moving important documents, mortgage papers, my passport, my counseling license, into a locked drawer in my desk. 2 nights later, the camera caught Nia coming home at 1:12 a.m. She entered quietly, shoes in hand, hair slightly undone. She looked at the couch as if checking whether I was asleep, then slipped into the bedroom. The next morning she acted normal, even cheerful. She asked if I wanted pancakes, like the last months had been a dream. The whiplash made my stomach turn. I watched her flip batter, smiled too bright, and realized she was managing me, not loving me. The next message from Malcolm came on a Saturday. Tell your wife you're making this harder than it has to be. I stared at it until my eyes hurt. How did he feel so entitled to speak about my marriage like he was a supervisor? I walked into the kitchen where Nia was labeling containers again. Rice, flour, sugar, perfect black marker, perfect lines. I held up my phone. Why is he texting me like this? I asked. Nia did not pause. Because you're being difficult, she replied. I felt my face heat. Nia, I said, forcing steadiness, are you sleeping with him? The words fell heavy into the kitchen air. For a second, she stopped moving. The marker hovered over plastic. Then she laughed, short and sharp. That is disgusting, she said. You are disgusting for thinking that. But she did not look me in the eyes when she said it. Her gaze stayed on the containers, like the truth was easier to handle in labels than in people. That night, I took a long walk to the neighborhood, boots crunching through snow that had turned gritty with road salt. I passed a corner store with bright fluorescent lights and a small shrine of candles near the door for someone's Annie who passed last year. I heard laughter from inside a bar, muffled and warm. I realized I had been isolating myself, ashamed of a situation I did not create. I sat on a bench at the small park and breathed until my hands stopped shaking. On Monday, I met with a lawyer during my lunch break. Her office smelled like coffee and printer toner. She listened without interrupting, eyes steady, taking notes. When I mentioned the couch ultimatum and the forced apology, she lifted an eyebrow. When I mentioned Malcolm's text and Nia had given him my number, her mouth tightened. This is not just infidelity, she said carefully. This is coercion, control, and you need to protect yourself. I nodded, surprised by how much relief I felt hearing someone name it. The lawyer suggested I keep a journal of events, save messages, and avoid arguments without witnesses. She said, if you plan to separate, do it calmly. No dramatic exits. I left her office and sat in my car for a long time, hands on the steering wheel, staring at. The snow piled against the curb like frozen waves. I did not want a divorce. I wanted my wife back. But the woman I missed might not exist anymore, or might be choosing not to be found. The next week, Nia announced she was hosting a family dinner at our place. My stomach dropped. Who's coming? I asked. She smiled without warmth. Malcolm, she said, and Patrice, and a few others. I stared at her. Why? Nia leaned against the counter. Because we're going to settle this, she said. You will apologize in front of witnesses, so you can't twist it later. My chest tightened. She wanted an audience. She wanted me small. Friday arrived with freezing rain that tapped the windows like impatient fingers. I cleaned the house anyway, not for Nia, but because I needed my own dignity to feel intact. I set out plates, the good ones from our wedding registry. At 6:40 p.m., the doorbell rang. Patrice came in first, then Malcolm, then two of Malcolm's friends from the gym. Suddenly my living room felt like a courtroom where I was the only one without backup. Nia stood near Malcolm, not near me. Patrice tried to keep it light at first, commenting on the food smells, the new curtains. Malcolm sat like he owned the couch I had been sleeping on. Nia brought out baked chicken and greens, her hostess smile plastered on. Then, as soon as plates were filled, she said, okay, like she was starting a meeting. We are here because my husband needs to apologize to Malcolm. He has disrespected him repeatedly. My throat went dry. Everyone looked at me. Malcolm tilted his head. Go ahead, he said, almost kindly. I looked at Nia. Is this really what you want? I asked. Her eyes hardened. Yes, she said. Say it. I felt my hands tremble under the table. At that moment, I understood the trap. If I apologized, I would validate a false story and hand Malcolm power forever. If I refused, I would look stubborn and guilty to the audience she selected. I chose a third option, truth without performance. I'm not apologizing for asking a man to respect my marriage, I said, voice steady. But I will say this. I regret that my home has become a stage for someone else's ego. And I regret that my wife has involved her ex in our private life. The room went silent. Patrice's eyes widened. Malcolm's smile dropped. Nia's face flushed. How dare you, she hissed. Malcolm leaned forward. Watch your mouth, he said. I replied, stop texting me. Stop inserting yourself. It ends today. Nia stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. You see, she shouted at the room. This is him. He is disrespectful. He is cruel. My heart pounded, but I stayed seated. Patrice looked between us like she wanted to disappear. Malcolm's friend shifted uncomfortably, suddenly unsure they wanted to be part of this. Nia pointed at me. "You will sleep on that couch until you apologize," she said. I surprised myself by answering, "No, I'm not sleeping on it anymore." I stood up slowly. My voice came out quiet but solid. "Nia, I have been trying to protect us." I said, "But you are not protecting me. You are punishing me, and I think I know why." Nia's eyes narrowed. "What are you accusing me of now?" she snapped. I took a breath. "I found the hotel receipt," I said, "and Malcolm has my number because you gave it to him, and you keep choosing him in small ways every day. So I'll ask again, are you cheating?" The room felt like it tilted. Patrice's mouth fell open. Malcolm went still. Nia's face shifted. Anger, then fear, then something like resignation. "You are insane," she said, but her voice shook. Malcolm stood abruptly. "This is not our business," he muttered, backing toward the door. Nia's eyes darted to him, panic flashing. That was the moment. Not a confession, not a denial. Panic at losing control of the narrative in front of witnesses. Patrice whispered, "Nia, is it true?" Nia's shoulders sagged just slightly, like the air left her. "It is complicated," she said, barely audible. I felt my chest crack open in a way that was almost physical. Complicated is what people call choices they do not want to own. I nodded once, slow. "Okay," I said. "Then here's what's simple. I'm done being punished for your guilt." I walked to my desk drawer, pulled out the folder of documents, and set it on the table. I spoke to a lawyer. I said, Nia stared at the folder like it was a weapon. Patrice looked like she might cry. Malcolm slipped out, avoiding my eyes, his friends following like shadows. Nia's voice rose, desperate. "You're really doing this?" she asked. I said, "I didn't invite your ex into our marriage." "You did." That night, I slept in the spare room, not the couch, because I refused to accept exile as normal. 2 weeks later, I moved into a small apartment near the lake, where the radiator hissed for me alone. The silence hurt, but it was honest. If you made it to the end, you already know this wasn't just about jealousy. It was about control, silence, and what happens when an outsider gets power inside a marriage. If you felt that courtroom energy in the living room scene, tap like so. I know to bring more stories with this kind of slow build tension. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that love doesn't require humiliation. And subscribe for more stories like this, because the next one is even messier. In the months after, I kept thinking about that first demand, apologized to my ex, and how quickly it turned my home into a courtroom. The lesson wasn't that exes are always trouble. It was that a marriage cannot survive when one partner recruits outside power to manage the other. I remember the gym's flickering sign, Nia standing behind Malcolm instead of beside me, and that steps to repair lists like a contract I never signed. Boundaries are not dramatic. They are quiet decisions you make before resentment becomes your furniture. I lost my marriage, but I stopped losing myself. The end.